I was going.
Yeah, but you're going to leave out the best part here. What show were you on that really bombed? National show. Okay, come on, tell the people. We got to get. I'm sorry to bring that up.
The show didn't bomb, but I guess I bombed.
Yeah, well, tell the people. Tell the people what show it was.
I was on America's Got Talent.
Okay, and tell everybody what you did. Come on, it's nothing to be ashamed about. Well, not too much.
I'm not ashamed of it. It's just funny. Sometimes I forget about it, and then sometimes someone will bring it up and go, "Hey, I saw you throwing plungers on America's Got Talent. How did that happen?"
Well, what were you throwing the plungers on?
What?
What were you throwing the plungers at?
I was throwing plungers at human targets, attempting to break the world record for the most human target hit with plungers in 60 seconds, which I did not do. The record was like 15, and I got 2 on America's Got Talent. And I also got 2 on Guinness World Records Gone Wild, because the only reason I got on America's Got Talent was because they saw me perform twice on Guinness World Records, the TV show, attempting to do the same thing. And I'm pretty sure my first episode on there aired, but I think the second time I tried it, I don't know if they aired it. I wound up like asking one of the hostess, Liz, out on a date. If I was like, "Hey, listen, if I break this record, you're really pretty. I'd like to take you out." And they were like, "All right, well, let's see if you can do this. Break the record, maybe go out on the table with Liz." And I think she probably knew I was going to fail miserably, because I failed miserably the first time. And so I failed again. And then I went and failed on America's Got Talent. But I learned that you can fail in life, and it's not what you do failing, it's what you do after you fail.
But the whole point is, it gave you exposure. Even if you failed, it gave you exposure. Yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, it was kind of like serendipity, because I had been hired to write a screenplay by a person who's now a really good friend of mine, Scott Kim, he lives up in Telford, Pennsylvania. He's a business owner, but he had put a Craigslist ad out to hire a screenwriter to write a screenplay. And so I emailed him in the middle of the night, because I was in the middle of writing my own book, The Second Coming of the Messiah. That was the first thing I wrote when I got out of the government, because I decided that I was going to put the solution out there on how to end this war and poverty game that these governments are just playing against us. And so I emailed him and I said, "Hey, I can write your script, no problem." So I wrote his screenplay called Harry Johnson, Diary of a Gigolo Porn Star, a spoof comedy about a guy born well endowed in Beaufort, Georgia, back in the 50s, and he goes through Vietnam. He becomes a war hero. He becomes an international porn star and a gigolo, and then a director, but his whole life falls apart. It's kind of like a cross between, I guess, maybe Boogie Nights and Forrest Gump, the way some people have received.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I told him after we wrote the screenplay, I go, "Listen, Scott, you need to, you should turn this into a book, because this will put it in the public domain, because this is such a fun, crazy, wild story that somebody might take a hold of this and just steal your screenplay and go make it. And if you're writing the screenplay because you want to pitch it to studios, it wouldn't be the first time a studio took a screenplay and said, 'Well, we're not interested in the screenplay, but thank you.' But then they take the screenplay, make it into a movie, and then the writer really isn't going to be able to fight all the lawyers that the studios have." So I said, if you want to protect your story, and if you want to protect this idea, then I highly recommend that you turn it into a book. And so together, the two of us, we wrote the book over about probably a 6-month period, and we published it. And we wanted to get it to Howard Stern, who, we thought maybe because Howard Stern was into that genre, and we wanted to be entered the Howard Stern show about the book, and we were trying to get a movie deal, and we're still trying to get a movie deal. And I'm actually going to be submitting it to some financiers coming up soon with some other budgets.
Well,
so when I found out,
to get on Howard Stern, come on, Ron, you'd have to have a sex change and get big boobs and dye your hair blonde and be dumb. Think about that.
That's tempting, Gary. I'm going to have to think on that.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that to be a guest on a show, you got to, I hate to say it, you got to be a good-looking hot chick.
Yeah, I know, and I'm not a good-looking hot chick. But if I was, I'd be a crazy, wild, hot chick.
Yeah.
So I told Scott,
I would be a
listen,
fat
America's
one.
Got Talent called me, and they want me to be on the show. And he goes, Howard Stern is one of the hosts of the show. Oh, my God. So I said, dude, you have to fly out here to California because we shot it at the Pantager right across from the Hollywood and Vine train station. So Scott flew out to California, and I told him, I go, look, I'm going to give Howard Stern a copy of our book right there on stage. I don't care. I said, the whole reason I even want to go on the show is just so we can give the book. I don't care if they throw me off the stage. I don't care if they don't even let me perform. I don't even care if I land any of the plungers. And, I'm a baseball pitcher, and I've been pitching my whole life at the college level. I still play, and so fairly accurate, but, I didn't do well on the America's Got Talent, but I didn't really care.
Okay,
so
but you left out the main part of that whole thing, too, and you're throwing the plungers. Come on, tell the people out here. Okay? The guy is what? Shirtless?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you left that out. Yeah, you were trying to get the plungers.
And a couple of them were homeless guys.
Yeah.
That we had to bribe with cigarettes to be targets.
Yeah, and you try to get the plunger to stick on their body.
Yeah, on their back. They faced away from me. They had their shirts off, and they weren't like buff, nice-looking dudes. They were like pretty much middle-aged guys, not in good shape, with thin, like homeless. A couple of them were homeless. One wouldn't even let on stage because his skin was so... He was like 70, and he could barely walk. And the producer was like, "You're going to have to tell him, I'm sorry, but he can't be on the show, but you'll have to tell him because we don't want this to turn into a bloodbath."
Oh, yeah.
Because they thought if he got hit by a plunger, it was going to open up a wound on his body and just be, which I think people would tune in for, but I guess America's Got Talent.
You would have hit him with a plunger and he would have went flying at 70 years old from what you just described. Okay, so you did that. Okay, I've seen where you've done some actually pretty good commercials. I've seen one where you were like a agent or something like that, and a spy or agent or something. I don't know if that was a short movie or a TV show thing you did. I've seen up on the internet. You've done some really interesting things, plus commercials. Yeah.
I mean, my first love was really acting, honestly, and I really loved taking acting classes and going on auditions. And in fact, I just recorded a voiceover audition with my agent today, and she asked me for my headshot because I told her I'm ready to start going on auditions again. I have the time to do it a little bit. But right now I'm also busy with deliverables for my movie for Hollywood and Vine and stuff. But yeah, I love acting. I love it. I love doing live theater. I love working on a character, learning my lines, doing all the blocking, and then really getting into the character. Because once you get off book and know all your lines when you're doing theater, and we would do 2-month run. We would do like 50, 60 performances in a 6 to 8 week period. And gosh, when you're doing that and you're in your character and you're just getting deeper and deeper into what you can do with your acting and the words and the timing. It's just, there's no place like like live theater. I like it even better than, camera acting, because with camera acting, you get your script and you really have to try and do 30 performances of that script in rehearsal so you're ready to do it on camera. And the only place you can really do that is just on stage. So the rehearsal process for camera is kind of lonely and isolated if you're really going to put the work into it. It does take a lot of work. Whereas with stage acting, you're kind of getting immediate feedback, and you rehearse for a month, and then you really hone the character out there on stage doing all your performances.
Well, have you ever...
So I love acting.
Have you ever bombed on stage where people started throwing tomatoes at you? I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. But, I mean, did you ever bomb on stage at all? One
time I did, and that was on America's Got Talent.
Oh, that one, I have to be honest with you. Howard Stern looked like... I never seen Howard Stern look like that. I mean, the look he gave you. I mean, if there was a look like, oh, my God, he was... And it wasn't like he was looking at you as God. It was like he was in total shock.
You know what was funny about that moment? Because he says, "We won't be seeing you anywhere, anytime, goodbye." And I immediately thought to myself, I don't think so, Howard. This isn't over yet. I didn't come here my life wasn't wrapped around this. And it was like the same moment where that contract manager stood in front of me and said, "Well, the entertainment business and this acting stuff doesn't pay your bills." And I immediately thought in my mind, one day it is going to pay my bills. You'll see. And when Howard said that to me, it was like the same exact moment. And so it was even more of it was a catalyst for me. It was another kind of a shove in the back and giving me some more energy to say, that's right, kid, keep pushing on and do what you got to do. Because I didn't get into the entertainment business really just for the entertainment and for fun and for acting. I got into it because of what happened with my government military career and how I felt about the way the governments are treating the world. And I decided to get into it for the specific purpose after a while of bringing a message to the masses through mass media. I could go stand out on the street corner and talk to the passersby and try and pitch them, the solution to how we can end war and poverty, but that'll take forever. I can't reach millions of people that way. So I decided I'm going to write books, I'm going to write and make movies, and I'm going to do everything I can for the rest of my life to end war and poverty and make us all free living souls again. And that's what I've been working at. And that moment with Howard Stern was just another adrenaline push for me to say, hey, don't listen to that. Keep on going. You know what you're doing, and don't listen to anybody trying to naysay you, even if it's live in front of 1 million people on national television.
Well,
I bounced back on that immediately.
Well, I hate to say it. Even I have done it. Art Bell's done it, and Howard Stern does it a lot. You know what? They wanted you on there for one reason. They wanted you. They knew you were going to bomb. But you know what? When somebody bombs like that, it actually draws more attention to the show too. Mm-hmm. So you know what? It was actually good that they asked you to do it, and you did it. And you know what? Howard Stern wasn't going to say, "Hey, this is the greatest thing I ever seen," next to my toilet being plunged. But the whole thing is that they asked you to do it, and they wanted that kind of a shock out there from the audience, and they got it. Now, I got it because we only have so much time here. You decided you were going to make the movie Hollywood and Vine. Now, how did that come about, Ronald?
Well, it really was sparked off by the one line, the line in the movie where the main character is going down the escalator at the Hollywood and Vine train station, and the other main characters coming up the escalator at the Hollywood and Vine train station, and originally it was going to be a movie about racism, because I had been kind of listening to politics a little bit, and I was fed up with how everyone wants, the borders, and how everyone's an illegal alien, and there's, kind of dissent between human beings because they're not speaking the same language. And I was going to make a movie that was going to try and show people that racism or even nationalism is what is just killing this planet, because we've been divided and conquered. And so the whole thing was going to go around that one line, hey, it's not Hollywood and Vine, and it's not Vine and Hollywood, it's Hollywood and Vine, because this foreigner's coming up the escalator talking on the phone saying, I'm at the Vine and Hollywood station, and then the other person goes, that's not Vine and Hollywood, it's Hollywood and Vine, you idiot. And then they get into a fight, but then they become friends, and they become, and that was like the symbol of, hey, let's mend our fences, let's get over these differences. Let's work as one. And then I started writing the story. I didn't really start writing it for a while after I thought of that line, but I started thinking about it. A lot of my stories first are created in my head, and I'll think about them. And then once they start taking shape, and I say, okay, I have to start writing this down. And then I have my own technique of writing down the screenplay, and I started building it out. And then it really became more about political, because I had written the Second Coming of the Messiah book, and I decided from that book that I wanted to be the person who put the Messiah character out into the mass media. There's no real Messiah figure that's been coming out in books, and there's no the Messiah TV show. There's really the Messiah movie. So I wrote the Second Coming of the Messiah book as an esoteric kind of sequel to the Bible that's going to, I put out part 1, The Awakening, and I'm working on part 2, the Rapture, and then part 3, the 1,000 Years of Peace. So Hollywood and Vine became the sequel to the Second Coming of the Messiah movie and book that hasn't been written. The movie hasn't been made yet, but it's where the Messiah has written the book, The Second Coming of the Messiah, and she goes to, and I wanted to make the Messiah a female, because I feel like there's a very strong imbalance between the male and female, the masculine and feminine in this world. That's why things are so crazy and violent and bloody and cold-hearted, that there's really no warm, loving, I guess,